Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming out. Wow. My name is Joshua Hirsch. I work at a company called Big Spaceship in Brooklyn, New York. We made a site called the Expressive Web, which I think somebody, did you guys see it tonight already? Yeah? A little bit? No? Anyone? Yes? Okay. All right, I'm going to go through it a little later. Just stop me if it's stuff you've seen. But first, a little bit about Big Spaceship. We, like I said, we're in Brooklyn. We've been around about 12 years. I've been there 10 years as of next month. It feels like sort of an eternity in this industry. We started out making a lot of flash sites for feature films, Hollywood movies. For the first 4 or 5 years, this is most of the work we were doing. We never really sold ourselves as a flash shop specifically. It's just we had a couple of projects like this, and it's a very small community, the film world, so other companies would see sites and say, oh, that looks cool, who did that? And we got around to just about every studio and sort of made a name for ourselves for making these kind of being really kind of cutting edge, high quality design and technology flash sites. As time went on, we got out of that. We still do a lot of entertainment stuff. We do a lot of different types of work. A couple of examples. Last year, actually for about a little over a year, we worked with Lucasfilm on StarWars.com. And for a project like this, we do everything from, we met with them early, did a couple months of just research, talked to them about the brand, what they wanted to do, what the challenges were, and then kind of synthesize that into tactics and how we would design this and how we would build this, and then did all the design and front-end technology and worked with their team to implement it. Then it launched late last year, which we consider it pretty successful. It's pretty fun. And this next slide, it has no context except that it's something that happened at our office shortly after launch. A bunch of stormtroopers showed up that Lucasfilm sent over, and we were like, this is weird. And then we started taking pictures of them doing normal things, and it turned hilarious. So that's all. So another recent launch of ours is Crayola.com. Again, similar to StarWars.com. It's a big kind of brand platform site, different than the older work we were doing, which was more kind of campaign work. Again, similar issues and challenges to Star Wars, which is that it's a very large audience, varied audience. There's parents with kids, there's kids themselves. For Star Wars, there are people who are old, like myself, who are familiar with the original movies, and that's kind of my entry point. And then there are kids who are familiar with the Clone Wars cartoons, and that's their entry point. So we wanted to make it feel like it's a site for everyone. When somebody goes there, it feels like it's their Star Wars site, but then they give the pathways to kind of discover other parts of the universe. Crayola, similar thing. People will go there for very specific reasons, and we want to kind of give them ways to move around. And again, it started out with a lot of just strategy, all internal, just concepting, strategy, design, development. Another recent site we did was Activate Drinks, which I don't know if you have this here. It's a drink brand where there's it's just water, and then you turn the little top, and it drops like flavor in. But anyway, I actually want to look at this one for real. This is a site we did with HTML. Oh man, let's go. There we go. I know these are pretty common these days. Your typical HTML5 scrolling site, fun scrolling site, but it's pretty early on, and that kind of this phenomenon. So kind of a rich HTML5 site, a little parallax scrolling. So again, this is another brand site. It's more of it just has a little information about the flavors and everything. So as we started, we came from this kind of Flash background, and more recently I've been doing more standards-based and HTML sites. Let's activate. Last year we did another site for Google called What Do You Love? This is sort of we worked with the Creative Lab and did a sort of a exploration of they wanted to expose some of the search products on their site some of the Google tools that people don't know about. There's all these, I don't know if you've noticed in Google, there's these menus that just say more, and then you click on that, and then it says even more, and you just get this list of massive things. So they wanted to expose some of that stuff, and we came up with an interesting way to do that. Let's see, I love Amsterdam. So it surfaces, it uses all the Google APIs and Google tools, and surfaces a bunch of, kind of, there's all the things you can do in Amsterdam, email someone. So, so what I'm trying to get at is we do a lot of different type of work. A lot of it's web-based. We also do mobile apps, content, social media content, strategy, things like that. Kind of, we have a set of skills on our crew and kind of apply it to a lot of different output. And a site I believe most people here are familiar with is the Expressive Web. So Adobe came to us last year, and specifically Mike Chambers, a friend of mine, and said, we want to make a site that features a lot of the new, shows what the new features of HTML5, CSS3 are, and kind of shows them in action and shows how they can be used. And we want an interesting way to get people engaged with these kind of features and talk about Adobe tools you can use to create these effects. So the features, he gave us a list of features, some of which are a little more exciting than others. We were tasked with kind of making an engaging example of all of these. So animations, that's pretty easy, kind of make stuff fly around. Gradients, kind of cool. Media queries, not quite as sexy. Web storage, also kind of a tricky one to come up with an engaging example of. And also, on top of illustrating these features, you wanted to have code samples, talk about availability within browsers, other data about these features and how available they are and how to use them. So we started out in this task. These are a couple of designs, actually, that when we started out, there were two designers taking two directions. This is one of them. It's more of a kind of vertical feel, a couple of different tries at it. This was, and then another completely different direction was kind of make this environment where things would kind of come to life, this kind of isometric cube environment. With kind of overlays that discuss each of the different features. And the result, there's another comp from that. The result was sort of a combination of both of these approaches and came to this, which I believe is familiar to you. And here's the site. Bear with me if you've already seen it. So everything's kind of based around this animating isometric cubes, and when you go to different sections, they kind of animate out and build in a new kind of scene which helps demonstrate the feature. This is CSS animations. Get your little hurdling guy. You can control how tall there's also a whole achievement model as you do things, little achievements are unlocked. So you can control how high the guy jumps. Go up here. Woo, he's jumping really high. Well, it's pretty cool. But for gradients, we get the little, there's a kind of teacup with a spoon, and you can change the colors that shows up inside the teacups. And again, these are all pretty extreme examples of these things, and they're not entirely practical examples. I mean, but this is the whole task, is like kind of push these things to the limit and show what you could do. This one, here we go, media queries. This is a good one. This is, we thought, how are we going to make changing the size of your window something that's exciting? Let me get an edge here so I can do this. So, you got your burger parts, and as you make your window smaller, did you guys see this before? Did they show this? Anyone? They did? Oh, man. I'm not going to do it then. You guys know what happens. Forget it. Skipping it. Makes a burger. It's cool. It's pretty sexy. Media queries. Who knew? They could be fun. See this one too? You guys saw this whole site? No, you didn't see this one? This one's pretty good. This is drop shadow. So you got your little light, and it's casting the shadow, and then so you can move the shadow around. This is real-time CSS drop shadow. None of this is canvas, by the way. All these squares are, I'm going to get this in a minute, but all the cubes are done with divs. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, man. Divs everywhere. This one's good, too. Thing blows up. Go. Boom. This is a CSS transform, so you can do little transformations on these guys. Whoa. Keep going. Stop me if you get bored. That was transforms. This is transitions. So these are the leaves, kind of, transitions. These all change colors. These are all, each little cube is actually a sprite sheet of all the different colors of the cube, all in divs, all being animated with CSS. We tried Canvas, and we did a couple of versions, one where everything was in Canvas and one where everything was divs, and the divs actually performed a lot better. This was web text. Hello. So you can change web fonts and web text. Oop, I got another achievement. HTML audio. This is just a little crowd, and he holds up a little sign. Did I have sound? Oh, there we go. Yeah, that was the applause. Oh, there we go. That's better. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Actually, I need to keep this up. That's perfect. This is great. I need to use this for all my presentations. This would be so handy. All right. This is a presentation I gave yesterday in Belgium. Yeah, I spared you guys my opening joke from yesterday, which had to do with this massive counter and whether or not I was wearing pants. There's one of those there. Yeah, this is a Canvas game. This one's especially close to my heart because I didn't explain before my title, Minister of Technology. I actually started, oh, damn it. So I started the company 10 years ago. There were 6 of us. I was the only coder at the time. So I actually do write code, and not much anymore because most of the time I'm just bossing coders around. But I wrote the code for this game, and I'm pretty psyched about it. It was really fun. Canvas, HTML Canvas, you can do a lot of cool stuff. What else we got? HTML forms, also not very sexy. But so we did this Mad Lib thing. That's pretty cool. I'm going to start cruising to this video. We got video, and web storage is this is kind of cool. We got this camera thing playing. Video plays over here. And then web storage, I believe, is just as you go through the site, you're getting all these achievements. And it keeps track of the achievements you've gotten. And you can see here, it kind of stores all the data locally, kind of saves your achievements. Then on top of that, you've got information about browser support, some examples and resources for each one. This also has I think it's responsive. Let's see what happens. Is it? Maybe not. Maybe if you're only on iPad. I think so. The iPad view, it kind of works like that. So anyway, I'll talk a little bit about the magic behind this site. So building stuff like this was done with 2 developers, 2 designers, on a very short schedule. This is definitely the most ambitious HTML project we had ever done. We're playing with kind of brand new features, trying to figure out what the capabilities are, how they're going to perform. There's something kind of core to how we work at Big Spaceship, which is crucial to doing something like this. This is a picture of our office, which was in the background before. This is me over there. And you'll notice it's set up in these big tables. And when we first moved into this space, this is my office up there. That's me. When we first moved into this space, we were kind of set up like this. So we see our crew is set up into 4 disciplines, which are up at the top. Designers, technologists, producers, and strategists. And we used to sit, as happens in many agencies, especially kind of traditional big agencies. All of these disciplines are very siloed, kind of do their own thing. They all sit together. They work as necessary. They don't see a part of a project until it's given to them and it's their turn. Like a strategist will come up with an idea, throw it to a producer who throws a schedule on it and a budget, gives it to a designer who makes things look good, and they give it to a technologist who says, hey, none of this stuff is feasible. and then it has to go back up the chain. So we've worked for a long time. We're very aware of this problem, and so for a long time we've talked about working, keep everybody involved from the very beginning of a project. Everybody's involved in the concepting phase, whole team, so you can get those perspectives, those voices. Technology can inform design. Design can inform how something is built. And we, a couple of years ago, actually changed around how we actually physically sit in the space to kind of encourage this collaboration. And everybody's on a project team, and the teams sit together. The disciplines don't sit together. So a team is made up of members of each discipline, and they all work together. So, as I mentioned before, the 2 developers and 2 designers and a producer on this and a strategist were a team working on this, sitting together and kind of being able to slide over and look at each other's screen for something like this was very, very important because of how the design and the technology, how the capabilities of these features would affect what could be done visually and vice versa, what the designer wanted to do, how that could be executed. Comes from Flash. It's also very important in Flash, same kind of thing. So one of the issues specific to this project was these kind of cube shapes, right? The art kind of created with the cubes. So the developers built this engine that could support and create these shapes with the cubes, but wanted to give the designer power to be able to, design how these things looked. One option of that would have the designer go into Photoshop and just build the shapes and then have the technologist spend all this time kind of translating that into the data that's necessary to build it in the site. Instead, one of the developers actually built a tool that allowed the designers to go in a browser-based tool and actually draw the cubes and then hit a button, and it would spit out a JSON file that could then be imported into the engine and drawn on the site. Since then, we've kind of addressed, that's what it looked like when we were using it for that. It's kind of not that pretty. Since then, we've dressed it up, and actually, live, you can, at blocker.bigspaceship.com, we've actually released this tool so you can play with it. You can draw cube shapes. You can stack them up, I think. Yeah. Wink, wink. And there's all kinds of cool features. This stuff was all added. This we couldn't do. Actually, no, I think you could do this before. So it's, if somebody wants to draw a big square. Boing. Yeah. HTML5, baby. That's what happens. It's okay. Not a big deal. We're back. So yeah, so if you want to go play with this, blocker.html, you can actually export. You can save. There's a gallery. You can save your files. You can see how the data looks. You can import JSON. You can write in the JSON. So part of what we do also is kind of build these internal tools and then release them. With Star Wars and Crayola, we actually developed a JavaScript framework that we're going to be releasing open source very soon for kind of independently loading functionality pieces, JavaScript functionality pieces. Keep a lookout for that. It's called Chainsaw.js. Whoops. Winner is not me, because I just quit stuff. Let me go back to this. All right, so some of the specific challenges of this site. Google indexing, it's all, when you go to the site and you go between the pages, it's not reloading the page, it's using Ajax. So we wanted to make sure we could index this, so we use the trick with Google is you got to make sure there's an actual hard link to each page. So took a little time to optimize this and make sure that when you're in the site and you go to a page, it's using the kind of hash bang notation. It's getting a little esoteric, but you could also go to each page and links within the page use the actual URL so Google could index it. So it took a little time to optimize stuff. These are actually, and these things, this list goes for any HTML site you're making now, any HTML5 site, things to think about. Challenges we had for this, things to think about for all sites. Loading scheme. This file size is kind of an issue, which actually I have that later on this list. But all this each page had a huge amount of JavaScript that kind of drove it. So should we load all that at first? Should we have one JavaScript file that's kind of minified and just it's all there at the same time? Should we load pieces as necessary? This kind of led to the development of Chainsaw I mentioned before, which loads kind of little pieces of JavaScript as necessary so it doesn't have to have it all there if you're not using it. It's kind of similar issues to Flash. Like, when you're working with Flash, kind of figuring out loading schemes and how things load and when is a big deal. Performance, obviously, on this stuff. My computer is pretty beefy. If you guys go home and look at this site, it may not perform quite as well. Different browsers, obviously, Chrome, and how they handle some will handle the canvas stuff really well and not be able to animate the divs as fast. So playing around with browsers, trying to figure out how many cubes we could have. There's actually a whole other design element in this. You guys remember the audio or the little people? Remember that? Yeah. Those used to be all over the site, and then we just took them out because they were just slowing it down too much. And figuring out how many cubes it could handle. It could be animated well, scaling that down. So I had to play around with that. Mobile view, make it responsive or not. I could go on and on about responsive design, but just plan, this kind of experiential site and then making sure it still works on mobile. We did. It works on phones and iPads and tablets. The view changes a little bit. It's somewhat responsive. There's some separate style sheets. And file size, as I said before, we discovered this little tool called Image Optim, which crushes image files pretty nicely. This is the sprite sheet of the cubes, and it was 61K, and we put it through Image Optim, and it came out at 12K and looked exactly the same. It just strips out all the unnecessary data. So that was a really handy tool for us. So all this stuff takes a lot of time. We come up with these ideas and kind of implement, but building this HTML stuff, and QA also, which I didn't put on this list, QA takes a lot of time. You have to test on a lot of different browsers, a lot of different devices, make sure this stuff works. Sort of running low on time, but I got through most of what I was going to say. I know this isn't the ideal format for questions, but I'd love, if anybody has any questions about this, I'd be more than happy to answer, but you're just going to have to yell at me, I think. Question was the time frame of manufacturing the site, the schedule of the site. I believe it was about 10 weeks. Not enough. It was very quick. Like I said, 2 developers, 2 designers, about 10 weeks. And it hurt. Any other questions? Scream out, please. Anything about Big Spaceship at all? Or my shirt? Or anything? Sorry? Am I wearing pants? You'll never know. Come talk to me after, I'll tell you. Anything else? Anything at the top? You guys have a good day? Was it pretty good stuff? Awesome. All right, well, no other questions, you can find me later. That's my email. You can email me and my Twitter stuff, and that's the sites. And Blocker to Big Spaceship is the thing with the cubes you can play with. And that's all I got. So thank you. I'll go this way or that one.